2025. Isn't today the first day of fall, Logan? I think it is. Look that up, will you? I think September 22nd is the first day of fall. Doesn't feel like that here at all in the Mid-South. Today it was about 80-something degrees and kind of humid. But I'm looking forward to fall, be honest with you, to stop sweating so much. So yes, it is the first day of fall. I'm also looking forward to the fact that now we're getting close to being able to start playing Christmas music soon. Logan knows his dad starts playing Christmas music generally in October, but it's the first day of fall. All right. I know we're not supposed to tell him that. He said you were playing Christmas music a couple months ago already, Dad. Okay. I did. And then I said, it's too early. I'm going to be tired of it before it shows up. So I stopped. But I'm ready for it. Okay. I'm also ready to start building fires and hearing that wood crack pop. I love a fire. But it's way too hot for that still here in the Mid-South. But anyway, it's fall. It just doesn't feel like it yet for us. Maybe where you are. All right. We got a big lineup tonight. Hedieh Mirahmadi, Anni Cyrus, Dave Gaubatz, Michael Weiner. Now, on Friday, the government put out this report right here on Al-Qaeda's recent calls to conduct attacks in the U.S., highlights its enduring threat to public safety. Memory has this out. In video, the leader of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula calls on American Muslims to assassinate President Trump. Vance, Rubio, Hegseth, and Musk attack Jews in Europe and the United States. We'll play the video. We'll talk about him, what he said in great detail with Hedieh, who will be with us, of course, for our upcoming national conference, Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. Now, Dave Gaubatz is going to join us in just a minute to talk about this as well as will Annie. All of them are coming on tonight individually because this is a huge story. But why is the government putting this out now? We have been talking about this for many months, maybe better than a year, warning about multiple teams, multiple shooters on each team, and what they would do in the U.S. Of course, going back to 2008, we were doing shows on Beslan. We'll talk about that tonight. So it's a big news night. But let's also talk about stable coins, the connection between stable coins and U.S. treasuries, and how, well, we could see a run on treasuries and a crisis with treasuries because so many people get into stable coins and they want their money. And then how quick can these stable coin companies dump their U.S. treasuries, sell them, come up with the cash to pay the people off? You're saying, I don't understand what he's talking about. Well, you will, because I'm going to play some videos tonight and help you understand what seems to be a big unfolding financial crisis. While gold pops well above $4,700 an ounce, and silver well over $44 an ounce. Where is it headed? And we're also going to talk about many other issues, including, we have the former CIA director, David Petraeus, sitting with the president of Syria. Hasn't he been involved in the massacre of Christians in the Middle East? What is going on? Hedieh, Anni Cyrus, I guarantee you tonight, they are not happy people about this. And this man was allowed to come into the U.S. to speak at the UN. And then we have leaders increasingly talking about Palestine as a state. Here's a brand new Substack by Annie tonight. Britain just crowned Palestine. All right, we'll get into that a lot tonight. Tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social. Spread the word. Get everybody here. We're going to talk about such important topics, okay? We don't want to waste anyone's time. We want to talk about important things so we can understand them, know how to talk about them with our family and friends, and know how to prepare. Now, tomorrow night already, I'm booking for tomorrow night's show because President Trump came out with a big announcement today. So we've already booked Nick Holscher. We've already got him booked for tomorrow night. Here's President Trump. Before we go to Dave Gaubatz, listen to this.
I'll say that they will maybe say at a little bit later date, but I think when you go for the shot, you do it over a 5-time period. Take it over 5 times or 4 times, but you take it in smaller doses and you spread it out over a period of years. And they pump so much stuff into those beautiful little babies. It's a disgrace. I don't see it. I think it's very bad. They're pumping, it looks like they're pumping into a horse. You have a little child, little fragile child, and you get a vat of 80 different vaccines, I guess, 80 different blends, and they pump it in. So ideally, a woman won't take Tylenol. And on the vaccines, it would be good instead of one visit where they pump the baby, load it up with stuff, you'll do it over a period of 4 times or 5 times. I've been so into this issue for so many years just because I couldn't understand how a thing like this could happen. And it's artificially induced. It's not like something that when you go from all of those, healthy babies to a point where I don't even know structurally if a country can afford it. And that's the least of the problems. To have families destroyed over this is just so terrible. I also, and we've already done this, we want no mercury in the vaccine. We want no aluminum in the vaccine. The MMR, I think, should be taken separately. This is based on what I feel, the mumps, measles, and the 3 should be taken separately. And it seems to be that when you mix them, there could be a problem. So there's no downside in taking them separately. In fact, they think it's better, so let it be separate. The chicken pox is already separate because when that got mixed in, I guess they made it 4 for a while, it really was bad. So they make chicken pox. Individually, they're okay. When you mix them, something maybe happens. So there's no downside in doing it. It's not like, if you do it, bad things. No, it's only good side. And it may not have that much of an impact, but it may have a big impact. So let those be taken separately. And then hepatitis B is sexually transmitted. There's no reason to give a baby that's almost just born hepatitis B. So I would say wait till the baby is 12 years old and formed and take hepatitis B. And I think if you do those things, it's going to be a whole different, it's going to be a revolution in a positive sense in the country.
Okay, now this is very good news. I would prefer none of these vaccines, but you know what? I'll take at least what he's saying. And he is so right, I think. If parents are going to do it, spread it out. I wish we'd not given any of our kids these. But when it came to our 2nd and 3rd child, we started spreading them out. And we started actually saying no to some of them. Now, we said no on the hepatitis B for all of them because we knew that was a wasted shot. Our child's not going to be an intravenous drug user or prostitute before they're 7, and certainly, hopefully not ever. But the shot doesn't last that long. And the fact that he's talking about that, hepatitis B, and why are we doing this to a brand new baby? Why not wait till they're in their teens? Okay, again, I just am so shocked we have a president talking like this because it's such common sense. And I just got to say, as I've told you guys, when he was elected, I'm going to do what I did the last time. When he says stuff I love and like, and his administration does stuff I love and I like, I'm going to tell you. When he does it, I'm going to say, what's going on here? And I think I'm going to say what's going on here when it comes to the president of Syria tonight. But this was good. Very good. And I know some are going to say, well, it's not 100%. Okay, you're not always going to get 100%. So I'm going to take what we got there. I think that was very, very good. Now, I want to play one other clip here. I love this clip because at one point, he has happened to him what happens to me here on TV live. And that is, I got a word put in front of me. I didn't have time to figure out what that is. So I love it that it happens to someone as well, besides myself, including the president of the United States. This is a great clip, but it's on Tylenol. Here we go.
Effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? which is basically commonly known as Tylenol, during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary.
All right. Tylenol is not good, in my opinion, either. I know this because I took too much of it. And I guess around 2004 or 5, which is about one of the last times I went to the doctor for any great level, other than some simple blood work to check my PSA level years ago. But back about 2005, I did have some blood work done then. Then the doctor's nurse called and said, are you a drinker? I said, no. I hate the taste of alcohol, but why do you ask? She said, you have elevated liver enzymes. I said, okay. She said, do you take Tylenol? I said, yeah. She said, for how long? I said, several years. She said, knock it off. So I never did that again. So there you go. I think there's a lot of reasons to avoid Tylenol. Now, apparently, pregnant women should avoid Tylenol as well. So we're going to get into some of this tomorrow night with Nick Holscher. But I wanted to at least bring this to you tonight. All right. Before we get to our amazing lineup tonight, I want you to go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Check out all these great sponsors, folks. All these great sponsors, because they help us keep the bills paid, along with our foundation, which is one of our sponsors, because it costs a fortune to do television and to push out free programming. Free programming is very expensive. Pushing out free programming costs an arm and a leg, because our bandwidth bill, our IT guys, paying the guys in control room, insurance, and so much more. We need your support if you want it to keep going, folks. Please check out the sponsors. Bella Grace, Numi, Gatatana, all of them. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Now, Miss Melissa is going to come into the studio right after Dave Gaubatz tonight. Miss Melissa is going to come in the studio, talk about a brand new product that you're going to love, I think. It's something she wanted us to develop. And then we found out Bella Grace had already set the plans to do it, and now it's available. So we're going to go to Dave Gaubatz. Then Miss Melissa is going to come in the studio, and I don't want you to leave. You can handle a 10, 15-minute conversation about what we're going to talk about. Plus, you get to enjoy me interacting with my wonderful, beautiful wife. So we're going to go Dave Gaubatz, Melissa Howse. Then we're going to be joined by Anni Cyrus. Then we're going to be joined by Hedieh Mirahmadi. And then we're going to be joined by Michael Weiner. That's our lineup. So have you tweeted, text, email, Facebook, Getter, True Social? Get everybody here. All right? And be sure you tell everyone about our fall conference coming up. Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. You can still get a seat at worldviewstore.com or live stream it if you're a Vault member. All right? Let's get started. Joining me now is Islamic expert, former federal agent, and a guy that's gone undercover in more than 425 mosques in America, Dave Gaubatz. He joins us tonight to talk about this new Department of Homeland Security assessment. This broke on Friday. Al-Qaeda's recent calls to conduct attacks in the U.S. highlights its enduring threat to public safety. Talks about, well, multiple teams attacking America at the same time, let me pick that up. Let me bring in now Dave Gaubatz to discuss this. David, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Brannon.
All right, so I sent this to you. I asked you to read it. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that although we have the best FBI director and other government agencies right now under President Trump, we have the best, yet myself, you, and many others have been saying the same exact thing that we're seeing in this message that you had sent me.
Yep. And what does it say about multiple shooters at one time hitting multiple targets in the U.S.? Can you give us
That's something that I think I've discussed with you in the past, that 9/11 was awful, very awful. 3,000 plus people have died because of that. But I have mentioned that the next type of attacks in America are going to be far worse than 9/11, such that we're going to have multiple attacks, multiple 9/11s going on in various cities. Can the public think about 10 different 9/11 type of attacks going on at the same time in America? It would destroy us.
And what kind of death toll are you thinking is in this scenario?
What kind of what? I didn't understand.
Death toll. What kind of numbers? I mean, if you're talking 3,000 on 9/11, what are we talking about here?
I think we're talking, if they do multiple type of attacks, we're talking upwards of 30 to 50,000 or more. But it could be as small as 1,000, which is still much too large. We should never suffer any type of attack in America. But if we had 10 type of attacks going on, Chicago, Detroit, Los Angeles, D.C., you name it, it would destroy the country. Our government would almost shut down because they are not prepared to handle that type of attack.
And so let's go here to the report. I want to bring it up. It's talking about target themes. AQAP threatened the U.S. president, vice president, secretaries of state. That's Al-Qaeda, right?
Right.
Members of Congress, their families, and at least one private U.S. citizen. All right. What else are we hearing in regards to targets? Are we hearing anything about churches, sporting events, conservative events, airlines? What specific? Is the government giving any details?
No, I really don't think the government has a good grasp on this. The threat is accurate. It very likely will happen, and probably sooner than later. But the types of attacks will be attacks, Brannon, that gets the American public irate, angry, wanting revenge, wanting something to do about it. They want to stir up the American public. It's not really about the number of people killed. It's about their ability to do it, and our government cannot do anything about it.
They're suggesting here on this that government and public officials, violent extremists may justify or incite violence against targets that represent or are linked to perceived grievances or alleged ideological opponents to foment chaos, fear, or political instability. It is crucial to maintain awareness of current TTPs that may be used by lone offenders or small group attackers, and enhance digital literacy to better protect online activity, patterns of life, and personal security, including altered daily routines to avoid surveillance, avoid posting or publicly sharing details about work-related activities, travel plans, schedule, or locations, and remove badges or other forms of identification when outside of work. Does this give you the indication that they are thinking that they're going to go specifically for government, not just civilians, or is it going to be a mixture?
No, Brad, it's going to be a mixture, and they've said this themselves. And when I interviewed Al-Qaeda in Iraq a little over 20 years ago, the same message was being put out. When they are ready, and keep in mind they, because they are very patient people, when they see the targets and the opportunity to do so, they will do it. And it will be a mixture. I think that they will hit churches, schools, sporting events, our government officials, to let the American people know that no matter who you are, where you are, or where your children are, they can attack you. And as I was told by Al-Qaeda, by numerous Al-Qaeda people, they said that they're going to specifically start attacking the hearts of the American people. And I asked them at the time, what did that mean? And they said, the hearts of the American people are our children. We're going to attack them emotionally, try to win their hearts and minds, like in the schools, and when it's time, they're going to attack our children physically.
So they're going to use funding out of Qatar and other places to infiltrate our schools, and then go after the kids physically, not mentally and spiritually, but then go after them physically by attacking them. I had on with me the other day Hedieh, who's going to be at our national conference, who was tracking ISIS for the government, FBI, State Department, and met with people like Muammar Gaddafi and others. And she was saying that this speech before Congress last week by Kash Patel, the FBI director, stating that we have to be worried now about nihilistic, violent extremists. It's very interesting, the word now, nihilistic, just for any new people. That means nihilism. Life has no ultimate meaning or purpose. It doesn't matter if you help the little old lady across the street or you shove her in front of a bus. It doesn't really matter. There's no morality, groupthink, whatever gives us the best outcome. You know, it's moral relativism. So this is life has no ultimate meaning. Nihilism. And he's talking about nihilistic, violent extremists. And Hedieh was saying she believes, and she said we were always having a hard time keeping track of what was the next step of ISIS. They were always one step ahead of us. And she said that I believe now, she said, that they are going after the LGBTQ crowd to be shooters, and they could care less about converting them to Islam. They could care less. Where once they wanted to convert them, turn them into jihadis. Now they could care less if they convert them. They just want to turn them into jihadis, therefore giving more camouflage to potential terrorists. What are your thoughts on that analysis?
Well, my thoughts when you talk about what they feel about human life, they have no feelings toward human life. As one Al-Qaeda member told me, jihadists, the Islamic terrorists, have what they refer to it themselves as a black heart. It means they have no emotion, no feelings. They don't care about their own family, their wife or wives or children. They don't care about careers. They don't care about their own government. And they will use people like the LGBT community when they need them, and then when they no longer need them, they will destroy them too. And they do this with many organizations. Many Democrats feel, and I've talked with many Democrats and conservatives, but many Democrats feel that, hey, it's easier to side with Islam, and when the threats or the attacks start coming from Islam, that they are going to be safe. I have obtained a list over the years where Al-Qaeda and other such groups say that we will go after the top organizations and people, regardless if they're Democrat, conservative. Once we've used them, then they will abuse them.
Yeah. All right. So how should people be processing this? And by the way, we should not be thinking that people that are in Lincoln, Nebraska are any less of a target than, say, someone in Los Angeles, right? I mean, they're going to want to try to make the American people feel like nowhere is safe, right?
Yeah, exactly. They don't care if there was a church or a school attacked in Nebraska, way out in the boonies of Nebraska, and 200 children were killed. It will have the same effect on the American people if it happened in Chicago or Los Angeles. They know how to get to the nerves of the American people. And again, that is to go after the children. That is to let the American people know that you're not safe, regardless if you're in a town of 200 people or 2 million people.
Now, we know on October 7th they filmed it. They put on body cameras, and they GoPros or whatever it is they were using, cell phones, all the above. And they loaded this stuff to the internet fast. You anticipate them doing the same thing here, do you not?
Yeah, of course, because terrorism is to instill fear in people and the governments in order for them to change their ways or policies. And And of course, they are very, very good at advertising. They have the best PR machine in the world. And we can't forget that they use countries like Saudi Arabia, although many times organizations, our government on the conservative side will say the Saudis are our friends. In actuality, they will take money from Saudis. The Saudis know exactly what is going on. No one is safe, and do not rule out any country from providing support to Al-Qaeda and the other groups. And something I want to mention, Brannon, I think is important, is sometimes we all get wrapped around names like Al-Qaeda, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, ISIS. We must stop that, and our law enforcement must stop that. They have one common denominator, and that is they want to form an Islamic nation, Ummah, worldwide under strict Sharia law. Each one of those organizations, and Islam in itself, has that very same goal. So you will see the Sunnis and the Shia working together.
So don't get caught up on the names.
Don't get caught up. Don't spend hours and hours. There will be new names in the next year. Don't get caught up in that name. And that's what terrorists have told me in the past, that they come up with these different names for terror groups just so it will confuse governments, it will confuse law enforcement, and it will confuse the normal, average, day-to-day citizen.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, for anyone wondering, this is on the DHS website. I mean, this is not something that a first responder sent us, and we then grabbed it. It's on the DIH or DNI website. That's the Department of National Intelligence, right?
Right.
Okay. So it's on the DNI website for anyone that wants to read it, and it's making its rounds. Now, I do want to read to you real quick. One of the things they were saying in this report, let me go back to it real quick. I had it pulled up here. All right. Symbolic economic targets. Okay. Again, the U.S. National Counterterrorism Center, NCTC, and again, it's at the Department of National Intelligence. Symbolic attacks. Violent extremists often seek to attack or conduct online messaging campaigns against targets that draw large crowds, incite fear from FTO supporters, and threaten economic interest. Historically, some of these targets include sporting and music events, high-profile special events, or symbolic locations which often have unrestricted open access. Regardless of the event size, venue, or location, event planners and public safety can think about some of the following factors when preparing for special events or public gatherings in their jurisdiction. Security. Integrate a visible law enforcement presence using roving interagency law enforcement teams to identify possible threats. Information sharing, and then threat reporting. So this is there, folks. Now, tell me how you think churches, synagogues, Christian schools, I mean, I know how you think the public schools, what they should probably be doing, but let's talk to me about more of the Christian, Jewish, private, religious organizations. How should they be processing this?
Well, they must understand that if one of these Islamic terror groups wants to commit a violent act, a mass attack at one of these facilities, they're going to do it. There's very little that you can do except be prepared, be expecting it at any time, day or night. Because I'll give you an example. The people, your listeners, need to understand. When one of these groups decides to target, say, a large synagogue, for instance, they will plan for months that type of attack. And they may go in, such as a stadium, a sporting event, they may go in months ahead of time, plant different types of explosives, hide a weapon in there. They may do this months ahead of time, and then the day that they've selected, they can go in as any normal person going into the stadium, but they've already planted the materials there months ahead of time. I don't mean to be pessimistic, But when one of these terror groups decides to do something, they can do it. They've got the means, they've got the weapons to do it. When they decide they're going to do it, they can do it. So most people can just be prepared at all times. I think religious organizations should allow the worshipers to, under the Second Amendment, to carry weapons, because if an attack starts to happen, at least it can be stopped faster.
And we've seen that in some church shootings where it was either the church security guard or somebody in the church that was a volunteer, or even in the congregation, stepped up. Let's talk about what this would do to the economy. Not that it's about money, but let's talk about what this would do, because terrorism has many goals. One of them is economic. Obviously, one's emotional, spiritual, the fear, the terror. But it does that to also go after the economy, to stop people from moving, going to events. What would this do to, let's say, even your grocery stores, your just-in-time inventory? How do you think the American people would respond to the attack that involved the killing of several thousand Americans spread throughout the country?
I'm saying that could be the spark that could ignite the fire in America, because it could happen, and I've been warning about this for years and years, that multiple attacks can happen. Our economy could go bankrupt. The PhD level people who run Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and these other groups, they're fully aware of how to take down America. And one of the methods is to go after the money. It usually comes down to the money. The reason 9/11 happened and the towers were hit, because it was a symbol of capitalism in America. And they knew that they could hit the towers, and it would not only affect America, but it would affect many different countries worldwide. They are I try to tell the people, they are very, very smart. They are very, very patient. And contrary, our law enforcement are not getting the training that they need. It is most of the law enforcement training over the years, when I was an active agent, was conducted by the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is the biggest hate group in the world. But yet our government has allowed the Southern Poverty Law Center to train our federal agents against terrorist groups. When I went to their training, the one groups they never mentioned were Islamic terror groups. They mentioned groups operating in the U.S., like the KKK, which is a dangerous organization, but it's nothing compared to what Al-Qaeda and ISIS are.
So, again, I want to go back to the economy. What would it do to the economy? Talk to me about that.
It would destroy the economy, Brannon. If we had multiple attacks across the U.S., people would be truly terrorized. And when they're terrorized, they do things that are not normal in a day-to-day life. They will stop going to social events. They will stop with this country.
Oh, I think we just lost David here.
Can you hear me now,
Yep,
Brandon?
got you now. You said they would stop going to social events.
Yes, they would stop doing the normal day-to-day activities. They would stop going to restaurants, to movie theaters. They would even stop going to churches, the synagogues. It would destroy the economy. COVID came close to destroying the economy. Multiple attacks in America would destroy the economy.
And how many people would be prone to sending their kids back to school, to a public school or a private school? But let's just say the public schools. How many parents are going to be prone to sending their kids back to a public school if they, whether a public school is attacked or not, but if they all of a sudden felt like any place, particularly where children are, is a great threat, they may on their own decide, I'm not doing this risk anymore. Or what if they actually do hit a couple public schools? I mean, that means you then got to have one parent stay home from work. Because sadly, most parents have to work in some degree, either due to over lifestyle or inflation. And so they're forced into the workforce to keep the mortgage paid and the car insurance and the health insurance and the homeowner's insurance and all that, right? So you got a lot of parents working, both of them. Now one of them, if they're not going to send the kids to school, one of them's going to have to stay home. That in itself could have a huge effect on the economy as well, could it not?
It could, and when people stay home from work, again, the reaction of the government is to step in and start pouring money into people who are not able to go to work, and all that does is add to the debt that the American government already has, the American people have. We have a huge debt. It would truly, Brannon, it would bankrupt not only companies, but people themselves, because most people would refuse to put their children in schools. If they started having an attack, not every day, but once a week at a school in California, maybe Nebraska, then Florida, it would put the fear of literally God into people, and they would be afraid to do anything.
And this, of course, is not new. You go back into our vault. We were doing broadcast on this in 2008, using Beslan as the model, the speaker that we've interviewed several times who wrote the book on this. What are your thoughts about Beslan? For those who don't know, that was in Russia, and the Islamists grabbed up 300 school kids and adults, and ended up killing, it may have been more than 300. Let me look up the total. Let me actually look up the total. I think it was around 300 that died. Beslan terror school siege. Yep, here we go. Let me look this up real quick. I want to be accurate on this. All right. It was back in September 1st, 2004 to September 3rd, 2004. Lasted 3 days. They imprisoned more than 1,100 people as hostages, including 777 children, ending with the death of 334 people. There you go. So it was over 300. 186 of them were children. You also had 31 of the attackers killed. We were interviewing the gentleman that wrote the book on this back in 2008, and we've interviewed him several times. They're available in the vault. He was saying he thought that was an example for America. Have you studied the Beslan terrorist attack at all, David?
Yes, I have. I've studied quite a bit on that, and only imagine that it doesn't have to be 300 people. It could be 50 people in 20 different schools throughout America. It would scare the people. They would truly be terrorized. At COVID, parents stopped taking their children to schools for a period of time. It destroyed families. And I think if it happened multiple times, when parents never knew when it was going to be an attack, the children are always going to be the ones who suffer. And again, that's why Al-Qaeda told me they're going to target the children, because that is what gets to the heart of the American people. Multiple attacks would destroy this country.
All right, so I know there's no time frame. Why do you think the government's putting this out? You and I have been talking about it a long time. Annie, Shram, Usama, many of us. Why do you think the government's putting this out now?
I think it's coming out now because the CYA, cover your ass, is the reason it's coming out. There's always intelligence. When I was an agent, you get more intelligence about these type of events than you can possibly handle. And our government, we have the best president ever, but when these organizations decide to attack, our government knows there's very, very little that we're going to be able to do to stop them. You will stop one or two for every 99 to get through, just the same way with drugs. We stop one or two loads of drugs, 99 get in. And that's the same way terrorists start to think. They may lose one or two, but they're going to get 99 in. And I think it's CYA is why the government is coming out with that now. They know that there's going to be some type of attack, and then they're going to be able to point the finger and say, we tried to tell you. We tried to tell you, but you didn't listen. Well, it's time that the government on both sides of the aisle, it doesn't matter because our kids are neutral on this. On both sides of the aisle, they need to make sure that our law enforcement are being proactive at the state, local, and federal level, and not always reactive. It's great that they can respond to a scene in 2 minutes, but can they stop an attack that's going to kill 3,000 people? And the answer is no.
Do you think the government is getting a ramped up chatter or not?
Oh, yes, of course. They're getting in more intelligence now than we've ever been able to do so because we have good intelligence agencies, and they know it's going to happen. They don't know exactly when, but they're trying to tell people to be prepared.
And of course, I guess they're walking a fine line there because they don't want to go ahead and have people shut down and isolate and damage the economy. So how do you think President Trump would respond? And where do you go? What group, what nation do you attack if this is Al-Qaeda or name whatever name they want to come under? Who does he go and attack? How does he find the money? Does it go back to Qatar? What does he do if it's Qatar? Because I'm not too happy with all the relationships going on there with Qatar. But how do you think, if you were to guess, how does a Donald Trump respond if this happens on his watch?
Well, we have many supporters of Al-Qaeda, Hamas, Hezbollah sitting right here, PhD-level people in America. I think President Trump needs to start cracking down hard on organizations such as CARE, ISNA, and the other groups that are nothing but sleeper cell organizations. They are the headquarters for these groups. CARE is Hamas. They are the headquarter level here in America. There's so much evidence by people, many great people other than myself, who have provided evidence to the government about what CARE and these other Islamic groups are up to, that they could immediately shut these organizations down under the IRS laws. They are conducting and supporting Islamic terrorism, and that is not a nonprofit status basis that they should be operating under. He should shut down, truly, if they wanted to prevent an attack, it would be to shut down the mosque in America, the 3,500-plus mosques in America that are posing as sleeper cells. Brandon, I just came back from Detroit, Michigan, and Dearborn, in that area. And my one conclusion is we have 3,500 Islamic terror cells that are just waiting for the word to attack America, as we've been talking about, you and I, for the last 30 minutes, about multiple attacks. The planning, the operation is happening in the mosque, and President Trump should take a very close look at the mosque and start shutting them down.
How do you think the American people would respond when it comes to saying the government failed us, our local officials failed us? I mean, everybody can Monday morning quarterback, but they're going to look for someone to blame. And then after they say that our sheriff's department, our police department, or our federal government, whoever it is they say failed us. And now, since they can't do it, we're going to go take care of it. I'm not encouraging this. I'm not supporting this. I'm not promoting this. I'm just simply saying, at what point does this cause many within the American population to then say, we're going to go to war? If they want to go to war, then we're going to go to war. Are you concerned that it would spark a civil war with Americans going after mosques, going after engaging Islamic groups? And would they do that, you think? Number one. And number two, is that what the Islamic groups want? Do they want literal guerrilla warfare in the streets? Because we know that we've read about the Black Panthers and some of those communists back in the 60s who openly bragged they wanted guerrilla warfare in the streets. Is that a case for the red-green axis in America, or are they not interested in that?
No, they are interested in that, and I think people should be aware that organizations such as this, they want the American people to be fighting one another. And I pray, as you just said also, I hope it never comes to that. I do not want civil war in America. But when American parents start seeing thousands of their children dying in the streets because of Islamic-based terrorism, they are going to respond and do whatever it takes to protect their kids. And again, I hope it never happens, but that is what the goal of Al-Qaeda and the other groups is to get the American people angered. We already have a divide in America, 50-plus million on one side, 50-plus million on the other side. And if our children are attacked, people are going to raise their hands and say, if you can't protect our children, we will.
And then finally, what do you make? I mean, I know we're on the air here and we haven't rehearsed these questions, so don't hold back. What about groups like ours? What about broadcast networks, our studios, our headquarters? What about that of, say, another conservative group or broadcast or outlet? How concerned are those groups about us? And do we have to worry? Should we be making extra precautions? Because obviously, if this happens, we're going to be on the news. We're going to be live. We're going to be interviewing you. We're going to be pointing the fingers. We're going to be naming groups and names as quick as we can. We're like we did on October 7th. We were on the air for 8 hours. How much more vigilance should Christian-based and very conservative national security broadcast platforms like ours be? Or do you think that that's not on their watch list? Do you think they would prefer us to stay up and report so that it creates more terror because we actually will tell them and show them what happened? In other words, in one sense, do they not like that we tell the truth? But in another sense, hey, don't go after them because we want to make sure that Howse is there to show all these gory videos and scream and holler about us.
No, I think there are numerous people, not necessarily at the level of Charlie Kirk. You know, I pray for him and his family. But organizations and media outlets like yourself, you should be very, very concerned. They can take out 100, but if we have 1,000, all it does is gather them more attention. They're letting the people know, the conservative and liberal people know, that they can attack and will attack anyone, anytime, any place.
Dave, his book is Muslim Mafia. This book is not a book that goes out of date. You could read it 10 years from now. It'll be more relevant than the day they wrote it, right, David?
Exactly. And Brannon, I want to let your listeners know that I am going to start with a website and putting out numerous articles on things that can help the people prepare for such events if we do and when we do have them.
Do you suggest everybody carry, get a license if they have to, or, you know, we have many states now that are constitutional carry. Are you urging everyone to practice their Second Amendment?
Yes, I've always said people should be prepared, do not be scared. Do everything within the U.S. Constitution. Make sure your family has food, water, shelter, and always keep the Second Amendment in mind. If it's legal for you to carry and you can carry, then I think the people should be doing that. Dave
Gaubatz, author of Muslim Mafia. Dave, as always, we sure appreciate all your work. You've been a man that's been promoting common sense and lifting up a shout for a long time. And now our government's finally saying what you've been saying for several years. So thank you for being so far ahead of the curve.
All right. Thank you so much, Brannon, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, David. Now, before we go away to another break real quick, guys, I want you to watch this. Here is the BBC on the Beslan school massacre. Just to give you an idea of what many experts are warning and saying that what happened back there in 2004 was a template for what could come to America. Watch this.
It was the first day of term in school number 1 in Beslan. In Russia, there are no classes when pupils come back from the summer. It's supposed to be a day of celebration and catching up with friends. But rebels stormed the school and forced more than 1,100 children, parents and teachers into a small gym. They wanted Russian troops to leave the nearby Republic of Chechnya.
We were standing next to the school gates. I saw 3 people running in with machine guns. At first I thought it was a joke. Then they began shooting into the air, and I ran away.
This was the start of a siege that went on for 52 hours. It was cramped and swelteringly hot in the gym with no food or drink. There were bombs taped to the wall and hanging from the ceiling. Older pupils were forced to attach explosives to the basketball hoops, and children were forced to stand near the windows as human shields. A few children, like this little girl, did manage to escape. But as negotiations went on, other relatives were left waiting outside, desperate for news, terrified every time they heard gunfire. Hundreds of Russian security forces surrounded the school, and on the 3rd day they stormed the building. Explosives and gunfire rang out. There was no sign of medical teams or ambulances. The attackers shot some of the children in the back as they ran for freedom, but others were carried out, weak, half-naked and bleeding. Some relatives fought to get through the security cordon to find out what was happening to their loved ones. 331 people died, 186 of them were children. Russia was in mourning. There were days of mass funerals. But many families and victims blame authorities, partly for not doing enough to prevent the attack, but also for the botched rescue operation. It's come out that security forces fired tanks and flamethrowers at the school. Only one of the attackers was found alive. Chechen carpenter Nupashi Kulayev is serving a life sentence. Authorities were cleared of any wrongdoing. For 13 years now, families and hostages have fought that decision. They could be awarded compensation, but most say it's more about establishing responsibility.
Wow. Beslan, something that happened so many years ago now, but 2004. But again, many are warning and have, as we even covered this in 2007 and 2008 with a man that wrote a book on it saying Americans should learn. Our school districts should watch and understand what happened and be aware. And now tonight we have a report from the government itself warning about what many of our guests have been saying is coming. Is it too little, too late? We pray not, but at least now you know, and you can respond accordingly. And we appreciate Dave Gaubatz being with us tonight. We'll be right back after this short break.
But with Brannon, it's always cutting edge stuff happening in the world. And it's not just from the political angle, because you can get that on other platforms, but it's always from the biblical angle. So you're dealing with a guy that loves Jesus, you're dealing with a guy that's very intelligent, you're dealing with a guy that is cutting edge conservatism, and you're dealing with a guy that wants to be biblical all at the same time. And so for that reason alone, I hope many, many people will not just lift up his ministry in prayer, but will also financially get behind it, because he, from the angle I'm trying to describe, he really is the only game in town. And we desperately need it in these last days. Can I get an amen to that?
Joining me now is Melissa Howse and Dr. Lucky. We have a big announcement, folks, something we've been waiting on for several months, and it's now here. And Melissa has already been taking this brand new product. We're excited to introduce it to you now. It's called Bella Melt. Let's show it on the screen here, guys. If you go to melissahousebg.com, you'll find it. Bella Melt, formulated by Dr. Lucky and his team. And Melissa, before we go to Dr. Lucky, you were on it for just 1 week when you lost 3 pounds. So in the first week, you lost 3 pounds on this, right?
That is correct. And I wasn't even really
trying.
I wasn't eating any different, but I mean, I actually kind of was eating different because I didn't have the cravings that I normally would have. So I guess that did play into it. But I mean, I couldn't believe I lost 3 pounds. It was amazing.
A week.
Yes, in a week. And I know it has a lot of other health benefits as well. But
in fact, you were talking to me and saying, Brannon, we should develop a product to support our network that is like this. And you were talking about some of the ingredients. And next thing we know, Dr. Lucky's reaching out saying, hey, we got a brand new product coming out and it has these ingredients. I'm like, wait a minute, Melissa's been researching that.
I had just started seeing different products, kind of not exactly like this is way better, obviously, but with similar things that I thought we should develop something like this because it's amazing. But of course, Dr. Lucky's product is the best.
Yep, there we go. So it's got something called GLP in it. GLPT, or is that
GLP-1?
GLP-1.
And a lot of people, I know, he'll talk about that, but have to take a shot, I believe, to get the same effect. Mm-hmm. And it's really costly.
Well, it's really costly to do the shot.
I believe so.
Okay, I don't know anything about GLP-1. Let's talk to Dr. Lucky about it. Dr. Lucky, Melissa was saying we need to develop a product with GLP-1 in it. I had no idea what she's talking about. Within a week or so, you call me up and say, hey, we're developing a new product. And and I'm like, I think Melissa was just talking about that. Welcome back. Thanks for being with us. What is GLP-1? What is that?
Well, first of all, Brandon, thank you so much. And Melissa, always great to see you as well. You know, your GLP-1 is a natural hormone that's in every single one of our bodies. And your GLP-1 lets you know if you're full. It's the satiety hormone. So when your GLP is working properly, it does help suppress your appetite as well as reduce those cravings. But unfortunately, with all the sugar in our foods, and unfortunately with all the chemicals and all those things, the additives they put in our food, it's really turned our bodies into, suppressing that natural GLP-1. So we want to eat more. The snack food companies have done a great job of really making us fat by putting all those artificial ingredients in them. And this has been the problem over the last 40 or 50 years. So your GLP-1 is a natural hormone in your body, helps you feel full. And what we essentially did was, and I got to give Rick, and you'll have him on your show soon. He's the formulator. I came in and enhanced it with a few other ingredients, but we put African mango and Cissus quadrangularis.
And if I can just say one thing, it tastes amazing.
Yes, please.
Yeah, it tastes amazing. So anyone that's questioning that, I could eat it all day.
I mean, it's called a caramel melt, right? It's a salted caramel flavor. So it has a caramel taste to it, right?
It does.
That's exactly right. It's a sugar-free, fast melt caramel. So when you put it in your mouth, you're going to suck on it like a piece of candy, like you would a caramel. Try not to chew it because I really want to hit the bloodstream. So what it's going to do best is it's going to reduce your sugar cravings or any other cravings you have in your body. It's going to suppress that appetite. But where Melissa got the most benefit, I think, over the last week was the L-carnitine. The L-carnitine tells your mitochondria, this is where we've talked about it before, this is where you produce energy in your cells. It actually tells those mitochondria to burn fat for fuel. And Melissa knows this. When you burn fat for fuel, you're getting less free radicals in your body, which causes less oxidative stress. But the output of that is greater energy. So it's going to increase your metabolism and help you burn more fat for fuel. And you'll get that clean, boundless amounts of energy.
And by the way, in that description, correct me if I'm wrong, would that also mean then you're reducing inflammation as well, correct?
Absolutely. Yes, you're going to reduce inflammation with this. It's going to be a heart protector as well. It's going to lower the cortisol in your body. So many benefits. That's our first two ingredients.
It's really good for your heart.
Yeah, protects your heart.
Heart health. Yes,
okay,
it does.
Yeah,
because it reduces.
Because I knew there were a bunch of really good health benefits. So I wasn't sure exactly what they were.
Anytime you can burn fat for fuel and you can reduce the load on your body, it's going to help all your systems. The two main ingredients are plant-based. They're actually fruits. You've got the African mango, and then you've got that Cissus quadrangularis, which is in the grape family. So these are great polyphenols. And then that third, which is what I mentioned earlier, is that L-carnitine. But we also put magnesium in this product. We put other amino acids. We've got other antioxidants. We've got some B12 in it. We've got a natural sugar sweetener. We've got some protein in it. We know the injections, and I can't name the names. I don't want to get in trouble, but those companies that are using the injections, we know they're terrible side effects. You get nauseousness, and a lot of people throw up. They have stomach issues. It slows down the gastric emptying, and people just have a lot of problems with these injections. We bypass that with our Bella Melt. We don't have those same side effects because it's a natural product. No prescriptions needed, no injections needed, just a great tasting, as Melissa said, a great tasting caramel that really, I think I would put it up with any of Willy Wonka's caramels. I think that this is way better than anything.
It definitely tastes good.
So you're saying that this is all natural, has health benefits, heart benefits, feeds you down to the cellular level, mitochondria, reduces your appetite, your craving, particularly for sugar and junk food. So we know Melissa was on it for a week, and just in that first week lost 3 pounds. What are you hearing from other folks that have kind of been the test cases like Melissa?
Yes, well, let's start with the studies. There's a study from 2009 that shows when you take the African mango, you can lose up to 28 pounds in 10 weeks with water, proper steps, prioritizing protein. So we know the studies are there. What I've seen with our if you will, we call them success stories, our trial success stories. We're noticing other people losing up to 7 pounds in the first week. 4 pounds has been about the average. And then inches lost as well. We know that 6 inches will not be too hard to have in 10 weeks as well. So the dosage on these Bella Melts are going to be 2 to 3 a day. A lot of people like something sweet after they eat lunch and dinner. So this would be perfect for that. Drinking a large glass of water so that you get that fullness feeling. And then I've noticed if I do one after dinner, like I just said, the next morning, I don't wake up hungry at all. And that helps me through that intermittent fasting, which I know both of y'all are proponents of.
Well, you look, may I say, your face looks thinner since I last interviewed you. Does it not to you?
It does. I was going to say that.
I appreciate you saying that. I've been on 2 of these a day. Look how, let me put it in front of you. So these caramels are beautifully wrapped. You do one in the mid-morning, one mid-afternoon, or one in mid-afternoon and one in the after dinner, and drink a large glass of water. It's going to help you with that intermittent fasting that I know you guys are proponents of, as I said earlier. But these caramels, they are just fantastic. Melissa, are you noticing after it melts in your mouth, and we're going to get to the coffee in a minute, that you get that salty taste, that salted?
I love that. I love the sugary with the salt. And I did notice that I didn't have the sugar cravings when I was.
And there's no sugar in it. That's the most amazing thing. So yes, you can drop it in your coffee. It can be your sweetener for your coffee without sugar. Stir it and drink it. It's not going to affect the chemical components.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, because I think I saw where you could do that. So
you can drop it in your coffee as well. So some products, they tell you not to mix it with anything. It's not going to work. So you're saying if you wanted to just drop this in your coffee, there you go.
It's perfect. This is what I like to do, though. I'm going to give you another way to do it, Melissa. Put the Bella Melt in your mouth and just sip on your coffee. And then the coffee will help it melt, and you get a much better taste of the coffee with that caramel. If you drop it in, what I've noticed, if you drop it in and stir it, you're not getting that caramel flavor in your coffee as much. I drink big cups of coffee, so I put it in my mouth, drinking my coffee, and it's so much better.
So how much weight have you lost, Doc?
Probably about 6 pounds in the last couple of weeks. I haven't really got on the scale, but I'm going for another 10. I want to be really thin for our big event for Bella Grace at the end of February. We're doing an incentive trip in Cancun.
Good.
Love to have you there.
All right, so folks can get their first.
I think there's something. Was there something about glucose? Does it help with glucose as well, or am I?
No, ma'am.
Wrong about that?
No, you're not wrong at all. As you lose weight and as you take these Bella Melts, it's going to help lower that blood sugar in your body as well. So we're real proud of that.
Okay, that's what I thought.
All right, so if folks want to get started on it, melissahousebg.com, melissahousebg.com. We can show them here on the website. Let me just start out at the top of the page so folks can find it. Start out at the top of the page, melissahousebg.com. You see the Bella Grace Elixir. You see the restorative sleep and brand new product, Bella Melt. Bella Melt. So there you go. Brand new, one of the very first broadcasts to introduce this product that we have known for many months was coming, but we weren't allowed to say anything. We were under a non-disclosure agreement. But here it is, and we're one of the first broadcast outlets to be able to introduce this to you. A lot of people are talking about this GLP-1. Again, Melissa came to me and said, I've been reading about GLP-1. We should develop a product with this in it. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but she does all this kind of research. And the next thing I know, before we could even, start talking about that,
this is all natural.
He comes to us and says, we have a brand new product with GLP-1 in it. And as Melissa said, with all the fact that
everything that Bella Grace does is top
drawer,
top of the line. So with all your other products, they've been amazing. So we knew that this one would be as well. I highly recommend it.
There you go.
So
melissahousebg.com. Closing comments, Dr. Lucky?
Yeah, 15 million Americans are on GLP-1s right now, prescription-wise. It'll go to 30 million by the year 2030. $90 billion are spent, but 63% of the people are looking for natural.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Most of those are probably not natural products.
They're not natural at all. So there are side effects. And there's some serious side effects, too, if you stay on them too long. So this gives people
definitely heard that.
to lose the same amount of weight in a natural way, or decrease those. Some of your listeners out there are probably going, hey, I don't need to lose weight, but they may have a sugar addiction, or they may tend to overeat. They may be what they call skinny fat. So they have visceral fat around the organs, but they're skinny. So this works for anyone. Let me close with this. So if you're on a GLP-1 right now, do not get off your GLP-1 because you're under your doctor's prescription, but you can add the Belamelt, because if you're taking a shot on Monday, by Thursday, Friday, that shot is worn off and you're already looking for some snacks. This is the health food snack, and you can add this very safely. Or if you're trying to come off of your GLP-1, this would be a perfect transitional product to get off your current prescription and transition over us, and you will not rebound on your current medication and gain the weight back, which a lot of people do because they don't have any transitional ingredients or supplements or supplies to rebound off or to get off with. This gives them that opportunity. Maybe you're somebody out there that's scared of the prescription, scared of the injections. This would be a perfect, perfect for you, perfect product for you, the Belamelt. And then lastly, there are professions out there that will not allow you to be on a GLP-1, an injection, a prescription, like airline pilots, as well as airline stewardesses. So this would be a great product for those people who are not allowed to be on a GLP-1.
Wow,
interesting. And I also want to say, I only took one a day. I didn't realize at the time when you sent me that I just took one a day.
You could be doing 2 or 3 a day.
Right, but I took one a day and still lost about 3 pounds.
Still lost 3 pounds. So. Wow. Well, there you go. All right, folks.
Yeah, most people are going to be 2 a day for the first 10, 12 weeks, and then they go down to 1. But if you have more than 40 pounds to lose, you're going to need probably 3 a day for 12 weeks or so, 3 bags. And then you can go down to 2, and then you can go down to 1.
Okay.
Oh, excellent.
Perfect.
All right, I'll throw out that disclaimer I always do. The product's not been approved or certified by the FDA. Is not intended to treat, cure, or prevent any disease. But other than that, we want you to check into it. All the information is there. MelissaHouseBG.com. MelissaHouseBG.com. Just now introducing for the first time Belamelt with GLP-1 fast action. Thank you as always, Dr. Lucky.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Nice to see y'all again. Bye-bye.
You too, folks. I think it's a great way to support us and get some objectives of yours taken care of at the same time. So check it out, MelissaHouseBG.com. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Brannon Howse. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouseBG.com.
Joining me now is Anni Cyrus. Check out this headline right here. Britain just crowned Palestine. From Balfour to Hamas, the UK never stopped carving fake nations to create control and to keep control. She joins us now. Anni, the number of countries that keep declaring a Palestinian state, but where is this country? It really should be over in Jordan, should it not?
Technically, it should be never existed, doesn't exist. We should have stopped making up countries.
But didn't the British mandate put them over in Jordan?
I was about to say, but if we want to go technically by rules of United Kingdom, yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. So is this just anti-Semitism? Is it what is driving this?
Part of it is anti-Semitism, but as I mentioned on my show earlier today on your network, huge part of it is that we are ruled by cowards, Brannon. We are ruled by cowards. And when I say we, yes, that includes United States of America. In order to appease the enemy out of fear, they're giving into enemy's demands.
Well, this is what Peter Pry, the late Peter Pry, and I talked about many times At what point is America going to be blackmailed? In other words, Iran or Hezbollah or IRGC, which is part of Iran, so is Hezbollah, any of these groups, tell us this is what we can do. This is what we can do to you. And now this is what we expect in order not to do that. And we talked about that, whether it's, Iran shooting something at us from Venezuela, where they've been flying flights from Tehran into Caracas, Venezuela, 1,264 miles as the crow flies from northern Venezuela to Miami, whether it's Club K cargo systems that could be here in the U.S. already, with the top coming up and 2, 3, 4 silos on them, with missiles can go off, or on cargo ships that come up into the Gulf of America. At what point are we being blackmailed? How about the 2 North Korean satellites that circle the globe and come over the U.S. that Dr. Peter Price said is better than 50% chance one or more of those has a nuclear weapon on board, right? So at what point are we being blackmailed? When you say what you just did, it makes me think blackmail. What do our leaders know? What have they been told they're not telling us? And by the way, now you have the government coming out saying, and we've got the report here, to be aware of terrorist attacks, multiple teams coming at one time. Oh, wow, that's something. We've been talking about that, you and I and others, for years. And all of a sudden they want to tell us?
Before we get to what you just said as your last statement, which country are we talking about? Because I believe United States of America government started being blackmailed. Okay, some administrations were blackmailed, some administrations were willingly cooperating, but it started from September 12, 2001. That's when the blackmail started.
So the day after 9/11.
They rushed to the microphones for the Islam is a religion of peace. This had nothing to do with Islam. From there on, I literally have spent so much time that I barely have looking at the ladder from September 11 until today. The pattern is there. Brannon, that was it, including spreading the rumors of inside job. Mossad was behind it. The hijackers weren't even Arab Muslims. All of that was pushed as blackmail. This is the narrative you're going to push. This is the narrative you're going to say. These are the 501c3 status you're going to issue for all of the mosque, CARE, ESNA, and all of them. The pattern is pretty clear that the blackmail started literally day after September 11, because on that day, they did show America what they can do. They showed America the vulnerabilities that our government never even looked into. But I want to be very clear. Some of the administrations have not been blackmailed. Some of the administrations have cooperated willingly.
Mm-hmm. So multiple countries now are calling for and saying we're recognizing a Palestinian state.
As of right now, United Kingdom, Canada, woo! And I have a question about Canada, Brannon. Is Trump administration going to change rules and regulations of travels from Canada to U.S.? Because I want to see that happening. Based on Canada just joining the countries of acknowledging a state of Palestine, I think we need to change our just come to the border, show your Canadian passport, and come to America. I think that needs to be changed because we can't.
You make a great point in your article over at liveuptofreedom.substack.com. The Balfour Declaration, that's something we've talked about here for so many years, which ended up leading to the San Rios Agreement in the 1920s, which was a collection of nations that recognized the right of the State of Israel. Now, it didn't come about until May of 48, but we can go back to 1917, the San Rios Conference, 1922 in that area off the top of my head. These are important documents. Most people know nothing about them unless they're like you and me and they work in the field or they're historians. But as you point out, in the middle of war, but they should know about them. And by the way, Israel, I often say sometimes, is the worst at public relations and even talking about the San Rios Conference and these others. and the Balfour Declaration. They should be screaming this stuff from the rooftop, but you did it. Thank you. 1917, the Balfour Declaration. In the middle of World War I, Britain issued a letter promising the Jewish people a national home in the land then called Philistine, or Palestine, as they say it today, an Ottoman district, not a state. At the same time, London was cutting deals with Arab leaders for the same territory. It was classic British double game. Promise both sides everything, then sit back while the chaos kept Britain in control. Speak to that.
Yes, and that's the thing. I backed it up with more samples because you know how I am. It wasn't the one time, but again, I mentioned on my show today, I said Britain is standing today claiming that what they just did helped keep the two-state solution on the table and took a step closer toward peace between Israel and Palestine. What they failed to say is, no, we just added fuel to the fire we started in 1917 because we were losing control. They're not going to admit to that. They're not going to say, listen, we just did this because since 1917 until today, we started losing grip on both ends. We lost control of PLO because Hamas got involved. And then we clearly lost control of Jewish people because we betrayed them.
Right.
So we needed to add fuel to the fire. That's what Britain just did.
Mm. Well, and I looked it up. I thought it was 1922, but it was 1920. The San Remo Conference was an international meeting of the post-World War I Allied Supreme Council as an outgrowth of the Paris Peace Conference. And they met in 1920. The San Remo Resolution passed on April 25th, 1920, determined the allocation of a Class A League of Nations mandates for the administration of 3 then undefined Ottoman territories in the Middle East, Palestine, Syria, and the Mesopotamia. The boundaries of the 3 territories were determined as later by the principal allied powers, leaving the status outlying areas there, blah, blah, blah. But what it went on to show is that there was the right of the Jewish people to their land, correct?
Absolutely. Yes. And again, the argument has always been, I mean, you know better than me because you have covered this extensively on your programming, but there is the argument of biblical right to the land. Mm-hmm. And then there's the historical argument of right to the. No matter which side you look at it, from geography, history, biblical point of view, Quranic point of view, the argument is Israeli Jews have the right to the land. Palestine, Palestinians, Palestine, Palestinian never existed. But the problem is nowadays, Brannon, people don't care about history or geography or Bible for sure. And they don't pick up the Quran and read it either. They just want peace. Peace. Where do I find peace? As we speak right now, they wrapped up the first day of the 80th UN General Assembly in New York. Day 1 wrapped up. We still have 7 days to go because it's going to go until September 30th. Their slogan, how did they fund this 80 years ago? Again, on the ashes of the war, a bunch of people from a bunch of countries said, hey, if we create this UN General Assembly where we allow all the leaders of the governments and the states come together and debate their issues, we can come to peace. That's how it was created. 80 years later, there is no debate. There are a bunch of people who get behind a podium and a microphone, talk about themselves, talk about their issues, bash the other person, and go sit down. And today, for first time in New York, under Trump administration, a man who was hunted and wanted by U.S. government for so long, had a bounty of up to $10 million on his head, showed up as one of the speakers of UN General Assembly of 2025. Mm. What do I even do with that? What? Okay, I can sit here and say Canada, the government terrible, UK is conquered, France has been always an Islam appeaser. I can do all of that, Brannon. But what do I say about Trump administration, President Trump, Trump's immigration that we've been cheering all along, issued a visa for Jelani and his entire Islamic Al-Qaeda-tied team to arrive in New York on September 22nd, 2025, with a red carpet in front of them to attend UN General Assembly.
Yeah, I want to show you a little video here. Because again, did you ever think you'd see the day that an ISIS leader was welcomed into the U.S. with the red carpet? But here we go.
Al-Qaeda.
Al-Qaeda, yep. Here we go, if it'll play. Well, it's not going to play. But when it does play, I'll play it. But that's it. This is what's going on. I mean...
But Brannon, I'm sorry. I have to constantly repeat the name. Trump administration. Trump administration.
ما جابت النساء ولا قبضت الداير والله ديب اخبار اضحيات احلى ابو محمد بالعالم
All right. That was him, though, on the stage right there, correct?
Yes.
And that was just in New York yesterday.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And who are those people in the crowd screaming and hollering?
I don't know exactly. Fans, supporters, some of the Syrian American presidents of NGOs and nonprofit organizations and mosques.
What do you make of David Petraeus, the former CIA director? When and where was this? You've seen this? Have you seen this, Annie? When and where was this?
Given how devastated Syria has been by the terrible civil war of well over a decade, how do you intend to achieve your vision for Syria? And what do you seek from the United States and the West to help you achieve that?
There has been a severance of relationship between Syria and the United States over the past time. However, the collapse of the former regime gave a new opportunity as a new historical phase. The region has suffered over 60 years, especially over the past 40 years and over the last 14 years of the civil war. Now there has been a historical transition that gave an opportunity in the region. There has been shared interest between Syria and the West and the United States in the current phase. And if we would like to talk, if we use the language of shared interest, there's a lot of principles that the U.S. and Syria share, and the West in general. I'd like to avoid that Syria only looks for relationships and friendship and donations, but we try to break the restrictions. We have to lift the restrictions and lift the sanctions put on Syria, because these sanctions were put because of the regime of Hafez al-Assad since 1979, even before we were born, because that was a country that fostered terrorism and such. These sanctions, specifically the Caesar law that was pushed by the American Congress on the former regime because it had tortured and violated human rights on its people. It had committed many violations against the Syrian people. But this is a former regime. This is past. So therefore, these sanctions have to be lifted. And if these sanctions remain with the old regime collapse, then they'll be targeting the people and not the regime, the former regime. I think Syria deserves a new opportunity at life, and Mr. President Donald Trump took a bold decision to lift the sanctions speedily, but it is still pending at the Congress, and the Congress also has to push to better the situation in Syria, because the Syrian people have suffered over the last decades, and the sanctions should not remain because it causes a burden on the people who've already suffered.
Okay, what do you make of the former CIA director, David Petraeus, sitting there with him? I think this just also happened in the last day or so.
No, this was today.
This was today.
It was today. So this is a summit by Concordia, which is a nonprofit organization. It was founded in 2011, supposedly bipartisan, mainly covering, they do their annual summit right before the UN Assembly. Today was their second day. I think tomorrow is their last day or something like that. They supposedly just cover democracy, economy, human rights and things like that. What better way to represent human rights than have a jihadist with thousands of innocent Christian blood on his hand, right?
And
Perfect sample.
There's Emmanuel Macron shaking his hand, the president of Syria.
Did you watch his speech, Macron's speech at UN?
No, I didn't.
I'm on your show. I need to watch my language. He announced the official recognition of the state of Palestine during his UN speech.
I'm going to bring it up.
And he actually said, I want to be very clear. I'm losing my voice. I want to be very clear that recognizing Palestine as state does not take anything away from Israel.
All
and I'm like, so did you find it?
Yep. Here we go. The
time has come.
C'est pourquoi,
This is why,
fidèle à l'engagement
to the historic commitment of my country
pour
to
la
the Middle
paix
East,
entre le peuple israélien
to peace between
et le peuple palestinien,
the Israelis and the Palestinians,
je déclare
this is why
que la France
I declare that
aujourd'hui
today
l'État de
France
Palestine.
recognizes the state of Palestine.
Well, there you go.
Historic? When? Like, show me the historical fact about France, or, when? When is their historical duty? I mean, on some of the samples I have on my Substack, I bring France into playing a role in dividing borders. No, your historical duty is to create more chaos in Middle East, be more anti-Jew, and cash in while all of that goes on. Yeah, that's the thing. I informed my audience, which is a small portion of a shared audience with yours, that next 7 days, my Substack is going to be busy. I'm going to have my eyes, no matter who wants to report on what, my eyes are going to be on UN General Assembly. This is where Palestine is going to walk away as a country by end of the 30th of September. And watch as everything flips after that. Watch as flames get bigger and bigger in Israel, Golan Heights, Gaza border, and then later on in London, France, Canada, Portugal. Portugal also joined. Australia joined, and then United States of America.
But President Trump is saying we're not going to recognize a Palestinian state, right? Mike Huckabee has been very strong about that, right? Is Mike Huckabee going to be forced to resign?
President Trump is very against officially acknowledging a state of Palestine, but he has no problem with Jelani getting a visa and coming to America. Give me a break.
What you're saying is the two don't jive.
No. And there will be a time. Actually, I never thought I would say this out loud or in my own head. President Trump allowing Jelani in this country today was a more dangerous move than UK, France, Canada, Australia, and Portugal acknowledging the state of Palestine.
Why?
Why? Number one, President Trump just showed the entire world that you can be a bloodthirsty jihadist. If you play with my rules, I give you a nice Armani suit, I call you a good-looking guy, and I get you a visa to come into New York. That is a dangerous move. And this man still has 3 years of power in the United States. How many more jihadists do you think are going to put on a nice suit, do a good haircut, good looking to Trump to start coming in?
Do you think that this is a foreshadowing of a President Trump recognizing a Palestinian state, or maybe if not officially recognizing it, doing things that send a signal without official recognition? And do you think it's going to eventually lead someone like a Mike Huckabee to find, the old thing they do is, I got to spend more time with my family. Do you think eventually he'll be like, I can't stay here as ambassador of the United States to Israel, I've got to go? Because he's been very strong about this. I mean, what is Mike Huckabee thinking today, you think?
Well, before I answer the Mike Huckabee, let me say this. No, this was a divide and conquer. Europe and Canada will take the headline by recognizing the state of Palestine. Trump will take the headline by allowing Jelani in. They're both the same move, but Trump preferred to take this one.
And is this how does this play? Let's play devil's advocate. How does this play? Are they trying to separate Syria from Russia, from Iran? What's the play here?
In Trump's mind, or in the globalist mind, or in the red-green axis
All
mind?
the above.
Because we have okay.
Go
In
ahead.
Trump's mind, he just made a great chess move, got his hands on treasures of Syria, and he's going to leave a legacy of bettering our economy and making more peace in the Middle East by shaking hands with Jelani and giving him a government.
Okay, by the way, when you say, are you saying we're going to get America will get some hands on some of the minerals in Syria, which of course...
we already made a deal.
Okay, so we can add those to our tokenization. So remember, if we're trying to build this spreadsheet and come up with $600 trillion in hard assets to offset our $37 trillion in debt on record, off record together $200 trillion. But who cares? Who cares about $200 trillion if your total assets are $600 trillion, right? So is Trump trying to boost his tokenization balance sheet of hard assets between Syria and the deal we cut with Ukraine and Pakistan and all these things? So is that what this is in part?
Yes. Yes. That's where Trump's mind is at.
Okay, so right now he sees the economy collapsing, the dollar collapsing, de-dollarization. He comes in as the let's make a deal, art of the deal, businessman, and really economics is driving a lot of this. So in other words, our national security is largely being driven by trying to deal with the Titanic sinking here, the financial Titanic, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So
that's the thing. I don't believe, as mad as I am, as disappointed as I am in President Trump himself, I don't think he's doing this because he's part of red-green axis.
No, of course not.
No, he's doing it because he sees light at the end of the tunnel of his presidential term. He can save this.
Let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say he sees that we're gonna collapse and then we're gonna be taken advantage of by these enemies. Or we can try to cut deals with some of these enemies, get some of their assets, keep our house in order, build up our military, and be financially strong. Is it one of these situations where he's saying, I didn't create this mess, some of it he did in his first term, you could argue, but this has been going on since 1913, the Federal Reserve and all that we've done. But hey, here it is. I'm not going to have it collapse on my watch, so I'm going to do the pragmatic thing, or what is really all I'm left with. And people aren't going to like it. There's good and bad in it, but what else are we going to do at this point?
Yes. I disagree with both of his options that he sees in front of him, but yes, I think that's where he's at.
Mm-hmm. Which really makes you wonder, what has he been told? Because President Trump, I don't think, is a guy that reads a lot of books, right? He's a give me a one-page briefing, right? And a lot of CEOs and guys are like that. I mean, there are CEOs that devour books, love books, but there are different personality types. I think President Trump is the kind of guy that's not going to sit down and read a book cover to cover. He's more of a, give me a one-page briefing. All right, let's go do it. No, I don't want to do that. Yes, I want to do that. Who do we get now to go do this? Put the team together, go do it. So what can you imagine? They walked into the Oval Office and said, Mr. Trump, on his first or second day in office, or briefing him as president-elect the second time, here's where we're going, and this is what's going to happen on your watch. What do you think they said was going to happen on his watch if he didn't do these things?
Aside collapse of economy.
Yeah.
Every city facing Islamic Jihad.
So we're going to go in and we're going to cut deals with them to appease them. Really what we're paying them is jizya, are we not?
We are paying them jizya, exactly.
Explain what that is to the average listener. I mean, our audience is very smart. A lot of them know, but we're always adding new people.
Of course, jizya is Islamic protection money. So if you're considered a dhimmi, meaning you're a second-class citizen under protection of Islamic government of any size, either a Christian, a Zoroastrian, a Jew, you're required to pay the jizya, which is the protection money.
So it's like the mafia saying you pay us so much a month, we'll stop the criminals from burning down your building.
Or ourselves burning down your building.
Well, that's what they mean. That's what it is. But they always say, we'll provide you with protection so that the bad people don't hurt you. They are the bad people. They will hurt you if you don't pay them. This is the Islamic model of jizya, right?
Exactly. That's literally just now, if you look at the Islamic translation from the muftis, they will call it Islamic tax. But that tax is protection money. It is not a required tax by Muslims themselves. It is specifically put aside for dhimmis or second-class citizen, non-Muslim population under protection of Sharia.
Mm. All right. So how does this fit in then with this new counterterrorism digest that Dave Gaubatz spoke about with us earlier tonight, warning about, attacks at different places? I mean, it's what you and I have been saying, multiple teams hitting multiple sites. How does this fit in? If we're paying them jizya, is no one going to bring Al-Qaeda or whoever it is to heal?
So even though we are paying them jizya, there are so many fine prints, Brannon, that comes with jizya. It's not even funny. There are too many fine prints. That being said, remember very recently we made Afghanistan extremely upset. The land of Al-Qaeda. We made them very upset when we went in to make a deal with Pakistan without including Afghanistan. Afghanistan turned around, Taliban turned around, made a deal with China and brought Pakistan into it. So Pakistan's benefiting from our deal and the deal with China and Taliban. Now, there's a longer list of where we stepped over our bounds and approved the steps when it comes to dealing with Muslim countries or Islamic countries. So there is still that element that they can come and attack us as they see fit because we have broken so many of the parts of the agreement as far as their end is concerned. I think it was 5 years ago when there was a rumor, a lot of conservative anti-jihad movement talkers out there were like, ISIS is done, we got ISIS, I was the only one out there saying, ISIS is not done, it will never be done, nobody's ever going to finish any of these Islamic groups. And today I will say the same thing. No one is going to end any of these Islamic terror groups, from Hamas and IRGC to Taliban and ISIS-K and Al-Qaeda and the rest of them. No government is going to stop them. Why would they, Brannon? Seriously, why would anybody stop these Islamic terror groups? Western countries the governments are benefiting, the corporations are benefiting, and people are pretty much comfortably walking around in denial. And when the attack does happen, there is still numb. They don't even react anymore. Did you know last week you had me on your show to report on an unreported terrorist attack that, by grace of God, the bomb didn't go off Did you know as of right now, the mugshots still has not been publicized? Did you know FBI has not released any information, including the investigation, on their website about it yet? Did you know even Kash Patel hasn't tweeted about it yet?
Wow.
We're at a point where we cover up as much as we can, and when the bomb does go off, we make sure to say it was a lone wolf, mental disease, mental health crisis, transgender, leftist, all of that.
So what is the time frame for these attacks they're talking about? Do you have a time frame? I know David likes to say when they're ready, that's when they'll do it. He doesn't like giving time frame, but I think you said 2025 still, right?
Well, I did say 2025, and I want to say this because I did mention it to you off air, and you were okay with me saying it on air. The malfunction bomb that happened on not last Friday, the Friday before that, matched my original timeline when I said not Iran, I said the Islamists are going to wait for their Muharram, the sacred month of calendar that they're not supposed to attack. They're going to wait that out, and then to 30 to 60 days after that, they're going to come out with an attack. This plot that the bomb didn't go off fit in that timeline that I put out in Utah. No, I didn't locate it in Utah, but I just want to say you didn't hear about it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Right.
As far as this Al-Qaeda talk that's going on, by the way, I wanted to address that. I said I'll address it later and then I forgot. You mentioned that FBI is talking about, Al-Qaeda movements. They actually have a chart of this, what they did back then. This is their pattern. I strongly believe that whatever is coming is actually not an Al-Qaeda movement. Al-Qaeda is going to be the fall guy depending on which Middle Eastern country we have decided to go after. Just like we went after Iraq when Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Kuwait attacked us on September 11th. So they're spreading the Al-Qaeda name around, but I don't believe the warning coming their way is from Al-Qaeda. I strongly believe from hearing what I'm hearing on the other side of the languages, IRGC is getting ready to wake up their sleeper cells that are attached to Hezbollah in America.
Why do they want to blame it on Al-Qaeda instead of IRGC?
Brannon, you don't really expect Trump administration. Trump proudly bragged about saving Khamenei's life. You think they're going to let IRGC take your blame after us saving their boss's life? That would look terrible.
Plus, he's still trying to negotiate a deal with him of some kind, isn't he?
Exactly. But it would look terrible if we came out and said, guess what? IRGC Hezbollah trained sleeper cells did it. Every American, including hardcore MAGA members who cover up for Trump all day long, will be like, uh-oh, maybe if you didn't save Khamenei's life, it would be safe today.
And he did say that on video, that he saved his life.
Not only on video, he put it on his Truth Social saying, I just saved this guy's life. Why is he so mean to me? I wasn't expecting a thank you, but why is he so mean to me? Which I actually was I was checking my head like, what did you expect from Khamenei? Do you know who Khamenei? I don't even know if he knew who he's saving at that point.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but that's just my personal opinion.
As a former Iranian and an expert on this, someone who speaks Farsi, tracks their social media and everything, you know what you're talking about. You've been tracking this. You know who this guy is. You know him well.
And I really want to mention the date and time of all these countries formally acknowledging the state of Palestine is no accident either. It is not an accident. They do need a little bit of a calm down moment in Gaza border because the focus is shifting to America. And by day, I want to be specific, IRGC and Hezbollah. When fire is too hot at Gaza, IRGC and Hezbollah, they're Houthis and Hezbollah, they have to be very much concentrating to help Hamas. They need a minute because they're going to take the heat elsewhere. But watch as Al-Qaeda will take the fault.
There it is. Britain just crowned Palestine at liveuptofreedom.substack.com, liveuptofreedom.substack.com. You can read a lot of her other articles there on the homepage as well. She also has a studio where she makes hand made art herself. LUTFstudio.com. LUTFstudio.com. And Annie, looking forward to having you here as a vendor at our National Worldview Weekend, Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th.
I am definitely looking forward to it. I know I'm going to learn a lot, so I'm excited.
Looking to having you with us. Annie, checking in tonight, liveuptofreedom.substack.com. Now, folks, where else are you going to get programming like this? We work long hours, 7 days a week, and we need your support. We are a listener-supported network. Would you please go right now to worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Make a contribution so we can keep pushing programming like this out free of charge as a public service broadcast ministry to help people understand the times, the various worldviews, and how we should respond. We need your support now. Please, if you can, worldviewfoundation.com. We'll be right back after this break.
Hello, I'm Brannon Howse. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
Joining me now is our good friend Hedieh. She's going to be with us Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th, live in person. Also speaking at our concert banquet keynote address on Thursday night, the optional banquet Thursday night. And then she's with us Friday night as well. So don't miss it. You can still get your tickets. People are still registering from all over the country to come in. Worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. If you can't make it, you can live stream it if you're a member of the Vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. All right, what a crazy day. I just had on Anni Cyrus. She informed me that Emmanuel Macron said this, and I had to go find it because it's been a busy news day on a lot of other fronts, and I just found this out myself. Listen to what he said. I'm sure you've heard of it by now.
This is why.
Fidèle à l'engagement
to the historic commitment of my country
pour
to
la
the Middle
paix
East,
entre le peuple israélien
to peace between
et le peuple palestinien.
the Israelis and the Palestinians.
Je déclare
This is why
que la France
I declare
reconnaît
that
aujourd'hui
today
l'État de
France
Palestine.
recognizes the state of Palestine.
All right, so that happened. You want to comment on that?
Well, I don't know what legal ramification it has for countries to just independently declare Palestine a state. So, I mean, especially when they're not directly involved. I think that there's certain kind of safeguards of what countries, the U.S. has a veto vote, or I don't remember exactly how it works, but I wonder what this is other than grandstanding.
Okay, so we'll see where this goes. Let's go to the next thing. Are you a little shocked to see the former CIA director, David Petraeus, interviewing the president of Syria? I mean, the man's a terrorist, right?
Yeah, no surprise. I mean, we undesignated Jabhat al-Nusra, so we basically removed ISIS from the terror list. And it was clear that President Trump wanted to legitimize the government of Syria. I think it was part of the negotiations over Iran. And so it's no surprise he's actually the first Syrian president in 60 years to attend the UN. So I think they think this is progress. I believe it will bite us in the end that we have done this. And
How so?
Well, it undermines the credibility amongst Muslims and Middle Eastern people. I had an Egyptian Coptic friend over last night, and she said her community's furious because this is the man that has been massacring Middle Eastern Christians. And so I think it's going to, it doesn't coincide with our rest of our program that we supposedly are going to prevent persecution of Christians. Is that only in the United States? Do we not care about Christians in other parts of the world? So I think it's going to end up being a really bad policy.
Is it also to get Syria out of the lane of Russia and Iran?
I'm sure that's one of the geopolitical interests, but I think it's also affected. We'll talk about the AQAP announcement, the NCTC and the warning, but I think it's also going to color how we announce the threat from these jihadi groups.
Okay, we're going to get to that. Annie thinks it's also about the deal they've cut with Syria to get a lot of their minerals and to prop up our books, as we've been talking for so long now about tokenization and getting all of these hard assets, going from a debt-based system to an asset-based system, gold, land, minerals, whether it's the deal we cut with Syria or Ukraine or any of these other nations, to be able to then, and of course, taking land from states, putting on the federal books, because land and minerals together, hard assets, and this can offset our massive debt. Is this also President Trump looking at national security first through the lens of money, through the economy, through our debt? Now you're laughing at me, which is...
Well, because it's no surprise he does that, right?
Yes, he does.
He's a deal maker. That's what he does. He looks at everything through an economic and a financial lens. And as an American, I love prosperity. I'd rather have assets than debt. But I am worried about us lowering our threshold for what we consider jihadi violence and terrorism and its threat that it poses to the United States.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see, what else do we have? Well, let's go to this list. This is, of course, what we've been talking with Dave Gaubatz tonight, Anni Cyrus, now you. This government report came out Friday that Americans need to look out. All kinds of events, sporting events, churches, airlines, all over the place. Now, this is not new. Annie, myself, many others have been talking about the concern. We played tonight the BBC report on Beslan back in 2004, hitting a school, killing over 300. We've been, since 2008, going back there, doing shows in our vault on the soft targets of our schools, like Beslan was targeted. Why now? I asked all the guests that tonight. Why now? Why now? And why are we blaming it on Al-Qaeda? Why are we saying that's the threat?
See, that's what I told you, is that I think that we are going to downplay the threat of ISIS because of our relationship with Syria.
Okay, now you're saying the exact same thing Anni Cyrus just said. She's also saying we don't want to blame Iran because President Trump, said, hey, I saved the life of the president of Iran. Why is he being not nice to me? So how can you say that this threat's coming from IRGC, Hezbollah terror cells, they'll be activated in the U.S., that's they're going to blame it on? How could you do that when we saved their leader in Iran? So we can't do that. We're going to already lay the narrative of what are the coming terrorist attacks. And the narrative has to be it's Al-Qaeda, not Syria, not Iran.
Right. And so I want to have your audience, in particular, it's an educated audience from the variety of guests you have, especially Annie and Shahram. But let's focus less on the alphabet soup of terrorists and focus more on what those publications actually said. So what I think is really interesting, not from the memo, but the independent research that I did, the video of Saad al-Awlaki that they referenced in the bulletin that was in June 2025. Guess what? This is the nexus that you and I talked about the other day for the nihilistic violent extremism, the nexus between the Marxists and the Islamists and the jihadists. So they endorsed, Saad al-Awlaki in that video endorsed the attacks of Thomas Crook against the president, the two Israeli staffers outside the embassy, and that was Elias Rodriguez, and Aaron Bushnell's self-emulation. He lit himself on fire at a protest for Gaza. And so it's really important that people start to draw that connection between this red-green alliance. Because if we consistently focus only on the Muslim end of this, we are going to miss the fact that those three perpetrators in particular were not professing Islam. They were influenced by jihadi literature, and Awlaki wants to take credit for them.
Okay, so this was when did he release that video in June of 2025?
Yes.
All right, take a look at this. Memory, which always does such great work. June 9th, 2025. In video, leader of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula calls on American Muslims to assassinate President Trump, Vance, Rubio, Hegseth, and Musk. Attack Jews in Europe and the United States.
Yes,
here's a little bit of the video for what it's worth. Here we go. If it'll play, we'll see if it will.
على كل من يستطيع أن يحيي سنة الاغتيالات وهو بالقرب من رؤوس الردة وداعم الحرب على غزة بالمال والمؤن والدعم اللوجستي من يهود العرب كحاكم مصر والأردن وحكام الجزيرة العربية كلهم، فلا يتردد لحظة واحدة، فإنه والله لأعظم جهاد في هذا الوقت. فمن كان بجيوشهم وفي قلبه إيمان ويخاف على نفسه من عذاب الله بخذلانه لإخوانه في فلسطين فعليه الآن أن يتحرك ويعمل شيئا داخل هذه الجيوش العميلة الذليلة الحارسة لليهود والحكام المرتدين.
Okay, let's stop there. We don't need to hear all of that. So I just want to show that it's legit. There's he is. There's a video. And in that video, he goes on to call for assassinations, including to target Jews in Europe and the United States and anyone that is supporting the war in Gaza, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure that includes going after Zionists and Christian Zionists, et cetera, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. But he also glorifies, and it's interesting because to me, that's the ISIS flag. So I don't know why he has an ISIS flag if he's AQAP. So that seems a little strange.
So David Gaubatz tonight said, ignore all these groups. Don't get caught up in the names of the groups. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
He said there's another group that will be created in the future with a name that we don't know now, but it will be created and it'll just be another name. This is all meant to just confuse people and have it be so overwhelming they can't think about it, won't think about it, won't research it because they can never figure out who's this group, who's that group, what do they believe. And so it's just meant to confuse the living daylights out of people. So he says, quit thinking about the names of the groups, follow what they're calling for. To pay attention to what they're calling for.
Exactly. And so that's why I want people to pay attention to the fact that he glorifies in those videos those three acts of mayhem that were not orchestrated by Muslims. They were by anarchists. And actually, it's interesting.
Okay, go back and say, what were the three that he highlighted?
So Thomas Crooks, attempted assassination on President Trump. Elias Rodriguez, assassination of 2 Israeli staffers outside of Washington, D.C. That was in May of 2025. And then the U.S. airman, the 25-year-old U.S. airman, Aaron Bushnell, who lit himself on fire during a Gaza protest. And him, they attribute to white supremacy. A lot of experts tried to link him to white supremacy because his family was Christian, but he was a professed anarchist. So he had left whatever, similar to Tyler Robinson, whatever he grew up with, he had disavowed by the time he went on to commit an act of terrorism. So this is another thing we have to understand. For 4 years, our FBI and our intelligence, which means the millions of dollars that went out to contractors like myself in the past, have been geared at RMVE, racially motivated violent extremism, AKA white people. So now you have to turn this machinery around and say, okay, don't attribute everything to them. You have miscategorized this group of people. And now they're switching to NVE. So the nihilistic violent extremism, which are the people who are anti-establishment, anti-Judeo-Christian values, who are seeking this culture of death at an extreme. It's jihadism on steroids, because these folks have no moral code they're living by. They just basically want to destroy the country.
So the fact that he called them out leads credibility to what you were saying to us last week is that Islamic groups are encouraging, promoting, funding, training these people. They could care less if they convert to Islam. And they're one step ahead of us again because they're not going to fit into any kind of group that we could profile.
Exactly. And so in terms of vigilance, we have to look at these pro-Palestinian rallies and not just think, here's a bunch of weirdo, like girls in miniskirts carrying a Palestinian flag.
I've heard people mock them and say, if that's who we have to worry about, we don't have to worry. But yet,
exactly.
if they can get a fairly decent gun and scope or an explosive given to them, provided to them, they don't have to be that accurate if they just plant explosives or, as David warned about earlier, go into a venue in advance, plant some explosives, put in a gun, then come back in later to that event and either they're detonate or they grab that gun and start shooting. You don't have to be that good of a shot if you're shooting people pretty close up.
Exactly. And that's the point, is to disarm the American people to be looking for a specific kind of person and thinking that other events are safe. And he specifically mentions the attempt to cause mayhem and disruption and using big social events where there could be a political disturbance. So he specifically advocates for that. And that's why people have to remain vigilant, that you're not looking for just one type. Think of the Tsarnaev brothers during the Boston Marathon, just dropping the backpack and going. See how destructive that was. So, a couple of those all across the U.S. and there'd be mayhem.
So what's the window? Do you have a window for this or what are your thoughts?
I don't think so, but I think the fact that we had 3 attacks in the past couple of weeks means that it looks like it's ramping up. We don't know, the guy on the subway, of course, seems like an isolated attack against that poor Ukrainian woman, but the attack at the Catholic school and then the attack on Charlie fits very well with what Al-Awlaki and these groups are advocating, what they're trying to inspire in these new group of nihilistic violent terrorists.
Well, there are some in the police world, and I talked to a police chief today who was very sharp, and he's like very worried. Now, he's also a very committed Christian and conservative, so maybe his worldview has got him thinking beyond what most police chiefs do. But this guy was, in our area, very aware that all it takes is one person, one weirdo, one person that's out there that doesn't fit into these categories, and you have to consider all of these people too. And that was before I even told him about this information that we're discussing now, or you and I discussed last week. He was already on that. But I don't think there's a lot of police chiefs that are thinking this way, or a lot of sheriffs thinking this way. They don't realize that this seems to be the new paradigm. Do you think?
They don't. And that goes back to the problem I identified earlier, where the NCTC, the staffers, the underlings that are under our senior officials, the Trump appointees, are all focused in a different direction. So in order to get that ship to move and to shift so that the training that's going down to the first responders changes is going to take time. I'm quite frankly disappointed that they put out this bulletin looking like this, that they didn't draw those comparisons. They didn't point out that Al-Awlaki praised those attacks. I'm surprised the memo did not go into NVEs and nihilistic violent extremism, and these groups are coordinating. Maybe it's to prevent panic and fear, because that is a little overwhelming for the general public to hear. Maybe, I'm not privy to the classified versions of these documents. Maybe in the classified versions, they're shifting, but clearly our government's law enforcement apparatus in its training to first responders and people in the field has got to change this narrative. And I think we're going to see it.
Are they putting out this narrative because the chatter's ramped up? Or as David Gaubatz said, this is a cover your rear end memo?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, you can't ignore the fact that these two, not only the video, but the magazine came out. But I think it's also, in light of Charlie, it's like, wow, we better put something out there. I think it's definitely a CYA effort as well.
Wow. Okay. So you're going to be with us a week from this weekend. We're sure looking forward to having you and your husband with us in person. It's going to be a wonderful conference, and it's going to be great to have you with us.
Yes, and I look forward to meeting your audience in person. So if you haven't signed up yet, I hope you come out and join us.
Well, thank you for that. Resurrectministry.com, resurrectministry.com. She'll be with us Thursday night for the banquet, and then again speaking Friday night. Hedieh, thank you for being with us tonight, though.
Thank you for having me.
And if you guys can't be here with us in person, you can get a Vault membership and live stream it or watch it within a few hours. We're going to keep posting them up there pretty quick after each presentation. So live streamed and then boom, popping it into that Vault. Worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/well, promo code WELL. That's urgentcarekit.com/well, promo code WELL.
Joining me now is Michael Weiner as gold goes to $3,747 an ounce. Silver today popped up to over $44 an ounce. Michael joins us now. Michael, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Brannon, and in all due respect, this is something I said, strangely enough, about 6 weeks ago. I said gold would hit 3,700. September is going to be a very active month. I said that in August. I also mentioned the fact that gold is money. It's no longer a commodity. It's a financial instrument. That's why people have to get used to seeing what they're seeing here. And it's going to get better for people that hold gold and worse for people who do not.
Okay, let's talk about 4,000. How far are we from 4,000?
Thanksgiving,
we hit $4,000 an ounce.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Correct. I moved it up a month.
Wow. What about silver?
Silver, when it tests 50, as I said before, that's going to be the real treadstone for silver. We're going to have to see silver really take action after $50 because that's always been a blind spot for them. So if it starts going to 54, 55, I'm looking at $60 to $80 silver in the future. But again, gold is money. Silver is gold is money. It's a financial instrument. Silver is an industrial metal, so we have to watch it carefully.
When do you see it hitting 50? I mean, 50 is the all-time high. So when is it going back there, you think, silver?
Sometime, if it's going to test it, it's going to be in October.
Wow.
Correct. Right
now,
before November 1st.
What is driving all this? Is it the fact that more and more people are realizing the de-dollarization, the death of the dollar, the destruction of the dollar with more debt, more quantitative easing, whatever you want to call it, the big beautiful bill adding $4 trillion over the next 10 years, interest rates being cut a little bit, more cuts to come. This eases up, creates more money out of thin air with our fractional reserve banking system. Is it that the smart money has figured out the dollar is going down and they're losing faith in it?
The dollar is gone. We're going to a stable coin in a digital world. The whole world is going digital over the next 6 months. We're going to have a new financial system globally. And the United States is trying to lead the way. That's why they did the Genius Act. So the stable coins and all the rest of it, your money is monopoly money. It's just going to have a different flavor. It happened in 71. It happened in 33. It's going to happen now. And the people who pay attention, and Wes and I have always sat back with the people who sit back and say gold is too high. Well, guess what? You're going to tell me that next spring when gold's around 4,400 and you sit back and say, but I could have bought it below $4,000. Well, what you really need to be concerned about is your money and balancing your portfolio. Because if you do not balance your portfolio during this re-dollarization, Brannon, that we are talking about, you are going to take a financial hit you don't have to, period. So, I mean, be assured of the fact that it is not something that it is going to be a negative for gold. It's going to be a negative for money and markets. And if you're smart, you'll make change. If you're not, you won't. And those people who are waiting for gold to drop to 3,500, good luck. Good luck. Have fun.
All right, let's talk about stable coins, because there are thousands of these out there right now. And a lot of people just don't understand the stable coins, and I don't blame them, because I didn't really understand them until recently. I'm not sure I still fully understand them, but I'm starting to figure it out. But basically, the deregulation of stable coins came through the Genius Act. So there's less regulation. So now you could create a stable coin. I could create a stable coin. I have no intention of doing it, but there's thousands of stable coins out there. And what you do is you basically say, you take $1 and you send us $1 digitally, and we will give you a stable coin that's worth $1. Then you can go spend that stable coin out in the digital world. Is that right?
Pretty much, but the United States government is creating its own stable coin that'll be regulated and controlled by the government, just as well as the crypto industry is going to be regulated. It just hasn't happened yet. It's all in the works. And once they get all of that documented and set up between the SEC, the banking system, et cetera, it's going to come down on us. And the problem that people have to understand is they're not going to tell you when that's going to happen. It'll happen. You'll wake up in the morning and it'll happen. I said this 6 weeks ago and 8 weeks ago. It happened in 71. You woke up and all of a sudden your money changed. It's just going to be there. And the people who are smart and restructure their portfolio will come through this unscathed. The people who do not will not come through unscathed. They're going to have a problem. And that's what we have taught about and worked about and mentioned literally over the last many months and
all right,
years.
I want to play a video for you. This is what I was watching the other day, okay? I want to play this video. Jim Rickards interviewing a young lady, Danella Cambone. This is what I saw the other day, and I thought his explanation was really good. I think this is the clip. Listen to this, folks.
I said stablecoins were an enormous danger. They may cause the greatest financial catastrophe of all time, but it's not because the Russians think they're propping up the treasury market. Treasury market's fine. It's not because the BRICS are working on another currency. They already have one. It's called gold. Here's the danger. These are, there are two dangers. The first one is these stablecoin sponsors are almost completely unregulated, non-transparent. No one has ever audited one of them. We don't know what's inside. Now, I'm not accusing anybody of any fraud. If I think that most stablecoin issuers do exactly what I said, which is they buy treasury bills or, equivalent, very high quality, short-term, highly liquid instruments. But A, we don't know. And B, there's got to be at least one fraud out there, probably many. What's to stop a stablecoin issuer from taking the dollars, issuing stablecoins, and stealing the money? The answer is nothing. And how would we know? Well, we'll find out the hard way when, when one of these dead fish, surfaces. How do we know it's not was it FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried or whatever? So that's coming. I'm not accusing anyone of fraud. I think the vast majority of them are not frauds. They're doing what they say they do. But just experience going back to Robert Vesco in the early 60s. One of these guys is a fraud. We had no idea whom, and we'll find out the hard way. So that will start a panic. Now, the bigger danger is, let's go in the non-fraud area. They're doing everything we described. They're doing everything right. The time will come when Tether holders, I don't have to pick on Tether or any stablecoin holder, want their money back. I've been through, as I say about financial catastrophes, if I wasn't there, it didn't happen. I mean, I've seen every one. The time will come when people want their money back. The best definition of a financial crisis I've ever heard is everybody wants his money back. That's it. And so when that happens, these stablecoin holders are going to call their sponsors and say, give me my dollars. I want out. I want to get dollars right now. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York open market desk only deals with approved banks. They're called primary dealers. These are the market makers in the U.S. Treasury market. I was counsel and chief credit officer at one of the primary dealers for 10 years. I talk to the Fed every day. I understand this market in depth. Is the Treasury bill market the most liquid securities market in the world? Yes, it is, but it's not unlimited. Try selling $1 trillion of Treasury bills in one day. Good luck. They're going to shut the market. And so when you get this run on the bank, it's a classic run on the bank, probably accelerated by AI. But when you get this run on the stablecoin bank, these are what they are, Danielle. It's not complicated. They're basically unregulated money market funds. What happened to money market funds in October 2008? They froze up. The Fed bailed them out. They bailed out the commercial paper market and the money market funds. They broke the buck, and because they couldn't sell they had Treasury bills, but they also had CDs. This was General Electric, who's the biggest issuer of commercial paper. They had commercial paper, CDs, etc. They couldn't sell them fast enough to pay off the claims. The market froze up, and the Fed bailed them out. Now, is the Fed going to bail out the stablecoin market? I don't think so. So you're going to have a financial panic of unprecedented proportions. The Treasury market is going to seize up, not because of China or Russia or anybody else, but because stablecoin sponsors are going to be selling Treasuries to get cash to pay off claims, and they're not going to be able to do it.
What are your thoughts on that, Michael Weiner?
18 years maybe or something. I was never a gold expert. It's good with currencies. The problem is, I agree with a lot of what he's saying, but that has to do with all the unregulated people, and that goes for the cryptos too. In the Genius Act, Trump is, and that's one thing he doesn't bring up here at all, and that is so important because the government is going to regulate this. And I've been through regulations. In deference to him, I own the largest gold company. I went through regulation in '76. I saw what the government did, and I know how they handle themselves. These companies are going to have to put up financial net. They're going to have to put up net worth. They're going to have to go background check all the people that work there. They're going to have to take tests. They're going to go through all kinds of stuff. And that's when the panacea that he's talking about will happen, because a lot of these companies base their net worth on their staple coin or crypto holdings. And the government's not asking for that to be part of their net worth. It has to be in dollars, gold, or treasuries. There's going to be huge panacea when all this happens. That's why I warn of it. There's going to be a changeover in our economy to this, and there's going to be a changeover in the crypto and digital industry, that this is coming out of the Genius Act. Read it. It says it. They're going to have to do it. And if they don't have the financial wherewithal to do it, all of these people who have bought these staple coins and cryptos from these companies are going to be in trouble. So that's when a lot of what Jim's talking about will go into effect. But again, the financial world, the Chinese, the Brits, the European Union, all of these entities, Japan, they're all coming up with a digital world. It's not going to be unregulated. And the problem is all of these people and these geniuses you see on television right now, well, I work for such and such stablecoin company, I work for such and such crypto people, and they're in the trillions of dollars, but they are unregulated. When they are regulated, it's going to get very interesting, and that's when the panacea will happen. And that's
but it's not only but the Genius Act also, according to many articles I read, makes it so that there can be more of this. I'm not so sure it's enough regulation going on. It's going to actually ease it up so more of this can happen.
Absolutely. But there's a difference between the people that deal regulated through the banks and the people who don't deal regulated through the banks. And that's the big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to be regulated and dealing through the banking system? Who's not? It's a real problem. It's a conundrum. And understand the fact that, do you want to, I said this on the show months ago, 3 months, do you want to be in the middle of a gunfight?
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a complete reorganization of our financial system. And until it's settled, where do you want to be? Now, don't expect your financial person to warn you, because if they did, there'd be a run on the bank. They're going to wait till it happens.
But this guy is saying, but Rickards is saying Rickards says there's going to be a run on treasuries. These guys, a lot of them are buying up treasuries because they give a return on the money they've taken in, selling stable coins, and it's highly liquid. But when you have, people trying to sell massive amounts of treasuries, there's not going to be customers for that. And then you're going to have, failures. I mean, this one article here at the Colossal Treasurer says there's $250 billion in the stablecoin market that's become a pillar of U.S. debt. $250 billion.
It's a very dangerous financial world right now. And that's why, when we call people and we tell them about this situation with stablecoins and we tell them to pay attention, and their commonality is, well, I'm doing so great in the market. Well, you're doing so great. That's what they said 2 weeks before the crash of 2008, 2000, 1994, 1987, 1986, 1979. I mean, does anybody ever learn? No. So, that's why gold is so strong right now. It's like I said with the guy from UBS Bank, gold is no longer a commodity. Companies and banks and individuals and countries are concerned about all this, and they're turning to gold as a financial instrument to protect themselves. That's what we talk about with people right now. So you can either sit on the sideline and wait and pay me more, like we talked about that famous Twilight Zone show that you put on that time about the guy who built the bomb shelter, or you could be proactive, not reactive.
All right, Mike. Gold is soaring. Silver is up over $44 an ounce. Gold is like, what did we say it was tonight? 3,746?
Yes, 37.47 right now.
And silver is at over $44 an ounce. Wow.
Correct. Correct.
All right. Keep us posted, will you, Michael? Folks, you can get the free report. No obligation. Just go to worldviewgold.com, fill out the form. Worldviewgold.com. Find out how to put gold into your IRA or to obtain it physically, like also numismatic 1933 or older that comes with privacy. So worldviewgold.com, or you can text Wes Peters at that number there, 602-558-8585. All right, guys, what a broadcast tonight, right? And again, where are you going to get this kind of information? I don't want to sound braggadocious because I can't brag. The Bible says, well, how can you brag in that which is a gift? And God has been so good and gracious to us to give us clarity of thought, to providentially bring people to us like Hedieh and so many more, to bring us information, to bring us understanding. So we don't boast in this, but we are going to say we believe that God has lifted us up, because doesn't the Bible say that all promotion comes from the Lord? Humble yourself under the mighty hand of God and he will lift you up. And I think God has providentially put us where we are. So we can't boast or brag in anything at all. But we can say, I think God has providentially brought us here, and there's not many outlets like this. We're willing to take on topics that do make us a target that a lot of people just don't want to talk about. I know people that have quit talking about these kind of things because they are afraid. But we don't want to be afraid. We don't want to be cowards. We want to be warriors. And I think many of you appreciate that. But yes, we have to increase security. We have a lot of things we have to do that are beyond just the cost of running this network. And those bills are going up. So it is important that we have your support. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Please do that, will you, right now? You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. And as always, don't forget about our sponsors. It's a great way to get great products, get great resources, at the same time supporting us with each purchase. Worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Roll the music, guys. Let's call it a night. And don't forget, you can go to Worldview Store and get some of the business cards, okay? They're free. Get some of the business cards. Dolly's out like a light over there. Normally she hops up to start eating on the business cards, but not tonight. Go there, get a stack of business cards to pass out. They're free. Shipping's free. The cards are free. Spread the word about worldviewtube.com. Won't you do that for us? We sure appreciate it. Worldviewstore.com. All right, pray for us. Pray for wisdoms, protection, health, so much more. May God save America. Take care.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon Howse.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon Howse.
And welcome. Glad you're with us on this Monday, September 22nd, 2025. September 22nd, 2025. Well, what a remarkable weekend in so many regards. Did you see any of the Charlie Kirk Memorial? Maybe some of you caught a lot of it. Maybe some of you caught bits and pieces. Maybe some of you saw some of the clips out there on social media. I was a guest today on the broadcast of Alex Newman. And he asked me, Brandon, do you think we're going to see a revival in America? And my answer is, I pray we see revival in America. But it's much like a recession. Are you in a recession right now? Are we in one right now? You don't often know until you look back and you say, oh, wow, we were in a recession back then. And I think that's the case with revival. You don't always know if you're in a revival until it's past and you look back and you see the fruit. You see the true conversions and the fruit of true conversion.